All right. Welcome back everyone sa show natin. Medyo nabulol na tayo over the past 24 hours. We had first of all Kristan kagabi to break down yung previous Quadcom. Kanina umaga naman we had Dr. Lisandro Claudio from UC Berkeley naman to discuss the implications of the Trump administration. And then of course kinonect natin yan dun sa possibility na can the Dutertes make a comeback. Ngayon naman kasama po natin ito sa mga pinaka-paborito niya ng regular natin, OG ng legal analysis, Justice Carpio. Kamusta Justice Carpio? Medyo kasabay na naman tayo. Nagterno na naman tayo. Last time, all black yun. All polka dots. Kamusta Justice?
Good evening, Richard. Good evening to our viewers. I'm okay.
You look very okay, Justice Carpio. Knock on the wood. Maraming wood dito. Obviously, I want to get your thoughts on the yung bagong batas na pinasa natin last Friday, essentially demarcating very clearly yung ating baselines. I want to go back to that in terms of may kulang pa ba? May naayos ba yung mga issues natin, concerns natin dati? Kasi alam natin sa Senado may konting ping-pong nangyari. And then obviously a little bit of a speculation about what are the things we have to look forward to under the Trump administration. Later this week, we're going to have Senator Trillanes to talk about many things, including the Duterte saga, the ICC saga, but also in fact yung beshi niya, si Marco Rubio most likely will be the next Secretary of State. Pero bago tayo pumunta sa lahat ng mga yan, Justice Carpio, eto na. What is your read of the ICC? Did Duterte seal the deal, kumbaga?
Well, we have a written statement from Malacanang by Executive Secretary Bersamin that if President Duterte wants to go to The Hague to surrender himself, they would not stand in the way. And they also said that if our government receives a request from Interpol to enforce an arrest order issued by the ICC, they would enforce it. Of course, the former president can go to the Supreme Court to ask for a TRO to stop it. No, so that would be his move. But of course, he has already said now that he would be willing to go there and face the ICC. So if there's a warrant of arrest, he should just go to ICC, surrender himself. But if he goes to the Supreme Court, that means he's not doing what he said just today, no?
Justice, the other week pinag-usapan natin yung so-called hearing sa Senate, which I think was flatly criticized across the political spectrum, except yung, of course, yung cheerleader squad na dinala nila yung mga hakot nila at saka mga Team DDS. But what is your read from last week's Quadcom and this week's Quadcom? Do you think medyo mas hinimas talaga yung issue na yan? Mas lumabas talaga yung mga kalokohan, mas lumabas yung mga illegalities, irregularities sa drug war operations? And do you think Duterte was even more self-incriminating? Not to mention, even hinahamon pa niya yung government and ICC essentially, hence the response by your former colleague, si former Chief Justice Bersamin.
Well, I think he dug deeper his own grave. I mean, that's the way I interpret it, because he affirmed everything that he said at the Senate, and he added some more. No, it was not. It looks like he didn't want to retract whatever he said in the Senate. He affirmed what he said in the Senate. They affirmed it in the Quadcom. No, so. And he even went further. He challenged them that come here now and investigate me. And he said he will be willing to face the ICC. But my hunch is that if the arrest order is issued, he will go to the Supreme Court to ask for a TRO.
Is there really a method to the madness, or this is just madness? This is just Digong really losing it? Because I'm trying to figure out ano pang gusto mangyari ni Digong. Kasi doon sa Senate, obviously, he used it as a clarion call, para i-defend niya ulit yung narrative na naman nila na he's for human lives, not human rights, all of the blah blah about him and the police. Pinahamak pa niya si Bato. But nevertheless, at least yung sa Senate, clearly that was a political platform he used, no? But dito sa Quadcom na yan, I'm not sure from what I've seen, he's doing anything that could help his case, whether politically or legally. Anong basa mo, Justice? Is he like really facing the music? Is he or like what's going on here?
Well, he's just being himself. He doesn't want to retract. Macho siya eh. He doesn't want to retract. He will reiterate what he said. Although he said he said he will take full responsibility, but when he was asked by Congressman Luistro, uh, do you take also responsibility for the illegal killings? And he said no, because that's the being done at the policeman level. So there's a lot of inconsistency in what he
Hindi
said.
pala
But
macho eh. Justice, hindi pala macho eh. Kung macho, he would have taken the responsibility. Hindi pala macho eh. Nag-back out kagad. Ay, hindi ko kasalanan yan. I'll just take the credit but not the debt, 'di ba? Parang ganun ang ginagawa niya, 'di ba?
well, he tries to be macho, but when confronted with a direct challenge, that would mean admission of responsibility of an illegal act, umaatras siya. But he, he keeps on saying that he ordered the killing. And then he said uh, that to kill only when you are uh, ng laban, may naglang ng laban. But he said, when he said that provoke them, then that's not a complete self-defense anymore, because you gave a cause for provocation. It must be an unprovoked attack, no? So he has uh, he's caught in a web of contradiction now.
And he's weaving that web ever thicker by the day. You would have thought na he would be a bit Machiavellian, a little bit wheelie around it. I'm just not seeing the plus for him eh. So I don't know if he's already in this fatalistic mode na just do it nag Frank Sinatra na ba siya, or he's still hoping na he can get some sort of sympathy or rallying cry. Now dun sa mga interventions ng different congressmen, of course 20 hours yung last Quadcom plus this Quadcom, but Justice Carpio, for the just to summarize, for instance, si Congressman Barbers, last week he began the hearing immediately, that 8-hour marathon hearing, by kinompara niya yung drug operations ni BBM versus drug operation ni Digong, and then pinakita niya ito yung effectiveness ni BBM, ito yung effectiveness ni Digong, pero ito yung cost ni Digong. Ang daming namatay, hindi ganun ka-effective. Ito kay BBM, surgical, calibrated, ito yung kalabasan. So I think that was very good. And then kanina naman si Abante, Congressman Abante, was very clear na now, when you look at these kinds of things, parang there's something going wrong. I mean, we're even worse than Mexico and Colombia in terms of numbers of extrajudicial killings. This is not supposed to be what he endorsed, and pastor pala siya. Other people endorsed back in the day. And then you have, of course, Congressman Luistro essentially saying that the theory of the case has been established. I think we have had enough self-incriminating evidence, testimony here to get this across the line. And then, of course, I think dito talaga si former Senator De Lima, no? She really she carried the day, no? Both previous Quadcom and this Quadcom, hindi lang niya na lay out yung patterns, that whole DDS operations from Davao to nationwide, and also pinakita din niya talaga propaganda, black propaganda, lahat ng ginawa nila back in the day. So, when you look at the full range of interventions, itabi muna natin yung grammar ng ibang kasama natin sa Kongreso at saka sino mas magaling mag-Ingles. Mamaya na yan. What is your read of the quality of interventions and cross-examinations we see? Obviously, it was way superior to what we saw in the Senate. But ano yung mga nag-stand out sa'yo, Justice?
Well, Luis was very good because she brought out the 30,000 maximum of 30,000 people killed, and she brought the topic to the quarry, where they buried the dead, no? Where they found the bones of those who were killed. And Duterte admitted knowing the owner, a policeman, and going there in the shooting range. So uh, the in other words, the 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 place where the victims were buried was there. There's an admission that there's that place, no? And that's exactly why Duterte got mad at Laila de Lima, because Laila went there to examine that place. So I think given the time constraint, the congressman did quite well. They did their best, I would say, and they. What's important there is that uh, they were able to uh, get the former president to confirm what he said in the Senate and to admit that there was in death, in fact, that the killing of those involved in drug trafficking was part of the policy of his government. And there was a reward system that was admitted also.
So you think na-establish yung systematic nature of this? Kasi, yes, I agree that the young guns, whether yes, it's Gutierrez, Luistro, a lot of them, I don't know about Dan Fernandez, but I think a lot of them did pretty decently. Ang akin lang, Justice, is, ang dami nagtatanong ngayon, ano bang hinintay natin? Kasi parang ang concern ng ibang tao, ano ba, dinedrag ba ito hanggang election para may free airtime? Hindi ko sinasabi na lahat ng congressman dyan ay nagpapakyut lang. In fairness, I can see the sincerity, the robustness of the intervention. But ano pa ba hintay na? I mean, what else are we waiting for here? Yan ang hindi ko...
Well, I think because it was Duterte himself said, why don't you investigate? Matagal na akong nagpapatay ng tao and hindi kayo nag-investigate sa akin. He was challenging the DOJ and telling the DOJ, yes, I've been killing people, but you have not investigated me. I think what they're doing is they're waiting for the ICC to issue that warrant of arrest and they will turn him over. It will be easier for them.
So yun talaga yung theory natin na hinihimas bago katayin. I mean, so I think this more or less confirms we're a little bit behind schedule. We were expecting it the other month pa, pero yung mga kadidiyas natin, huwag kayo masyadong excited. Papunta rin tayo dyan. So I think it's quite confirmed na may negotiations behind the scenes between ICC and govt.
Well, I don't have personal knowledge, but I'm sure the ICC feels the heat now because this guy Duterte has told them, "Hey, why are you so tardy? Bakit ang bagal ninyo? Matagal ko nang inihintay yung warrant of arrest ninyo." So he's challenging the ICC to arrest him already, to investigate him.
Parang napapaya pa nga yung Marcos admin, di ba? Na parang, sige, okay, mauna ka na. Binibigyan ka namin nga ng panahon eh. Pinapa-warm up ka pa namin. Gusto mo tumalon, tumalon ka na. Di ba? Parang ganun yung dating sa akin. I mean,
so I think the pressure is on the ICC now to act because the accused himself is saying, ang bagal ninyo.
Bagal nyo. Tuloy si Darian at saka si Justice Carpio. Tinetroll lang. No, I mean, I know for a fact that there has been stop communications going on. But what do you think is holding back ICC aside from the fact that, my goodness, they have 10 other conflicts to look at as we speak? Gusto lang nila, sigurista na siguro sila. Kasi yung Russia, malabo. Israel, malabo. Maybe they want to get this one right. Is that possible? Again, because there are also calculations going on. And as we speak, even Karim Khan is facing a lot of pressure because of his Israel.
Yes, I think that could be.
Yeah.
That I think that will affect the timetable because they had the chief prosecutor as his own problem, so that could be one delaying factor.
And just to be clear to our audience, so actually, dalawang potential problem. There is one allegation of supposed abuse. Let's see what's going on there. And then the other one, of course, nothing suspicious, just coincidental. Yung isa pa is, of course, yung threat ng sanction laban sa kanya at saka pamilya niya from the US Congress, di ba? If ever tuloy-tuloy itong warrant of arrest nila. labay kay Gantz, Bibi Netanyahu, and those kinds of people na key ally of the United States. So, under hit din kasi yung ICC ngayon eh. Ganun ba ka-importante yung chief prosecutor, Justice? I know it sounds like self-evident, but isn't there like a mechanism to make sure that the machine keeps on going even if the chief prosecutor is under hit? Kumbaga, pwede siya maging punching back politically, but legally the machine still moves forward.
Well, yes, there is a succession there. There is next in rank who will take over. However, of course, there will be a delay because the next in rank will have to do his own review also, and would be probably be careful. So there will certainly be some delay, the way I look at it.
Delay, but more or less that's the direction of the wind, no? So there is a possibility, and again, this is speculative, there's a possibility na magkasabay ito ng elections, no? I mean, first quarter, second quarter of next year, if they come up with the Interpol, then that's election period, right? Hindi ba medyo pangit yung timing na yan? The same way na pangit yung timing yung lumabas yung arbitration award na wala na si Pinoy, si Digong pa yung presidente, di ba? Minsan parang may ganyan tayong kasaysayan na ang pangit ng timing ng mga nare-release na international rulings, no?
Well, matagal pa naman yung election. If there's a delay, it could just be a few months. So, and I think with this development here, with the former President Duterte himself saying, bilis-bilisan ninyo, naiinis na ako.
Baka
So
ready
I
na
think
yung
they're put on the spot now.
baka ready na yung wheelchair niya, yung neck brace niya. Mukhang ready na yung theatrics nila. I'm sure na the moment na something will happen on the ICC front, ito na, magdadrama na si Tatay Digong, magre-release na sila ng video na kawawa naman si Tatay, biglang hindi na macho, biglang, I mean, you know this, Justice Carpio, they're masters of theatrics, di ba?
Yeah, well, he will probably be in a wheelchair and wants to be confined in the hospital. Ganyan talaga yan, no?
Tama yan. So just be ready. At saka of course, let me hazard to say there's someone even more dramatic sa kanya. That's Bato de la Rosa. Senator Bato de la Rosa. Can we imagine a lot of crying by Bato? Yung iyak na naman siya, magdadrama siya.
Well, if the warrant of arrests are issued, we will have to find out who are the others who are included, no?
Medyo Davao School of Drama and Arts. Medyo from Davao School of Constitutional Legal Studies nung kay Kipaloy. Ngayon naman papunta tayo sa Davao School of Drama and Arts. Talagang I'm very impressed by the talent level, Justice, from your hometown. Na-insecure na kami taga Baguio and North. Sana naman mag-level up yung presidente. Pakita ka naman ng gilas, di ba? BBM. BBM. Okay, Justice. Wow, these are crazy times. Now, obviously, Justice, it's one thing to go after Digong or after Bato and some of this big fish, totoong big fish na yan. But obviously, we need still serious judicial reform and reforms within the police, no? NAPOLCOM and all, because there's still concerns about a lot of holdovers from before, a lot of compromise, scalawag type of ex-police, or people are still in the system. What do you feel about it? I mean, the fact that you have General Torre, no, now as the head of CIDG, those kind of competent guys moving up. Do you think there's some hope there in that direction?
Yes, remember right after martial law, it took some time before the military
Professionalized.
were rid of soldiers who had a certain mentality, no, violating human rights, and the military had to really teach the soldiers human rights. It became part of the education program of the military, and they succeeded, but it took some time. So here in the police, I think something like that will happen. The remnants of the Duterte death squad are still there, and of course they will not change their mindset. They will probably do it again if given the chance, because they're used to that already. So it will take some time to make a correction, and they have to go through re-education program again, just like what the military went through after martial law. Now the military is very conscious of human rights, far more conscious than the police. So we have to bring the PNP to that level.
Security sector reform, no? Mahalaga yan. Parati ko sinasabi dun sa mga partners natin. Napaka-successful ng security sector reform sa ating sandataan lakas, no? Kasi nakita natin ang panahon ni Digong, di ba? Nag-refuse talaga sila sumali sa war on
Yes.
drugs. They held the line on West Philippine Sea. All sorts of different things na hindi pa na completely on earth. Pero syempre, yung mga kasama natin na may medyo connection sa military, alam nila things that were happening behind the scenes to make sure na yung Pilipinas hindi maging province of China. The other thing I want to ask you, Justice, is you had Secretary Remulla recently coming out with this big statement about ito yung war on drugs ni BBM. As someone who was in the judiciary for a long time, as someone who was in the government or advising government for some time, as someone who was a former lawyer and of course justice, ano ba talaga yung state of affairs when it comes to our drug and criminality problem? Are we as bad? And are we doing anything significant to deal with the gravity, the real gravity of problem we're facing right now in terms of crime and rule of law?
Well, I think drugs are still rampant. And I think it's part of, I have this suspicion, and some in the military also believe in this, that part of the strategy of China is to dump shabu in the Philippines to weaken
Opium
our
war.
society.
Opium war, so Shabu war.
Yes, the opium. They're doing to us what the British did to them in the 1800s. And that's exactly what they're doing to the US also. They're the principal source
Fentanyl.
of fentanyl. And that's worse even than opium. And the shabu principally comes from China. And in China, you cannot manufacture anything without the knowledge of the intelligence, without the knowledge of the intelligence agencies there. So they know what's happening and they're allowing it, because I think that's part of their strategy to weaken our Philippine society. It's easier for them to get our island territories and maritime zones in the West Philippine Sea. We will be beset with problems here because that has been their experience during the Opium Wars. That's exactly what they're doing to us.
Is there like a legal recourse or is there something? Because I
Well,
also
the only,
yeah.
because all of this are coursed through customs, and it's the cooperation of our people in the customs that allow this. You remember the magnetic lifters.
Yeah,
So
2017 ba yan?
all of this pass through customs. So if we can only secure customs, then we've stopped it already.
So we have to clean up also in the customs. That's where many things go wrong. I remember interviewing, I raised this also before, si Prime Minister Mahathir when he was here in Manila in 2019, his state visit to Manila. And tinanong ko yung issue ng drug war, di ba? Of course, Mahathir is known as a strongman and all. Sabi na, this is an external problem. Hindi siya internal. Essentially, what saying is from China. So if you want to deal with the drug problem, you have to go to the source of the problem. Interdiction, customs, all of those things. So isn't it, hindi ba ironic na yung pinaka-anti-drug guy natin ay pinaka-friendly dun sa pinanggalingan ng drugs? Essentially, hindi ko sinasabi yung government ng China, but nevertheless, yeah.
Yeah, he never blamed China for the drug war, for the spread of drug in the Philippines. But everybody knows that the shabu comes from China. All the ingredients come from China. When the Chinese had in the laboratories here that manufacture shabu, there were Chinese chemists. We even have Chinese chemists here. And the Chinese chemists, I've been in the Supreme Court for a long time, and all we get are charges against cases against small-time peddlers. The Chinese chemists, the big drug lords, maybe one or two, or maybe at least one only. I've come across at least one case only. So, I mean, that's the first thing you can find out, because you cannot cook shabu without the barangay knowing it because it's of the smell. Every barangay chair would know if there's a shabu laboratory in his barangay. So, but they always go after the small-time peddlers.
Cosmetic para lang may masabi lang, may ginagawa essentially, 'di ba? Yun yung concern natin. Kaya nakakalungkot talaga na marami nag-support sa war and drugs without looking at actually what was happening, which is hindi pinapatay yung mga big time drug dealers. We're not saying na dapat patayin, but I'm just saying hindi talaga binibigyan ng sapat na attention yung ugat talaga ng problema dito. Justice,
Well,
going back,
there's a case of in
right.
Davao. They even say that Michael Yang was one of the
I was
shabu.
about to ask the young and the lean and all of these guys, all of these characters. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a testimony. There's a affidavit of Matobato and Mascareñas that Michael Yang was had a shabu laboratory in Davao.
Just figure, this is the Michael Yang, aka Presidential Economic Advisor. Hindi ko
Yes, the presidential economic
like,
advisor.
is it okay for forget about drug lord for he's a Chinese citizen, isn't it? Can a Chinese citizen be a presidential advisor?
No, you have to be a Filipino citizen to be an employee of government.
So what's going on? Like ganun ka garapalan yung panon ni Digong. Of course, we know the answer, but just to emphasize, anong inisip ni Digong na they could get away with this stuff, putting dodgy foreign citizens in charge of top position?
Well, he knew that nobody would oppose him. Everybody was afraid of him because they know that he had a death squad.
So they thought forever na sila. 1,000 years of Reich. 1,000 years of Duterte admin. So Justice, what is the best way to fight drugs and at the same time also win over people? Kasi yun yung ginagamit ng mga DDS, di ba? Parating nilang sinasabi na wala naman kayong ginagawa sa drugs eh. Polvoronic nga yung presidente, di ba? Parating nilang sinasabi, si Digong lang lumalaban eh. What do you think the government should do to restore confidence na something is at least being done? Should there be some big drug bust every now and then? I don't know, some big drug lords apprehended. Obviously, may kulang eh. Di ba? May kulang eh. Kaya yan ang ginagamit ng mga DDS to say, ito si BBM, ano yan?
Madali lang yan, Richard. Pantang yung port area. Have a very strict inspection. Dumadaan lahat dyan eh. Have a very strict inspection. There should be layers of inspectors so that if they can pass through one, they have to pass 5 more. 5 more. Put 6 layers of inspectors, so at least one layer can catch and that's it.
And ganun ka mainstream yung I mean like they're not even doing like Mexican cartel submarine and all. It just goes through the airports and all.
Yeah, it just goes through. Yeah. You've seen the magnetic lifters.
They're not even trying. Do you think, Justice, kasi yung angle ng fentanyl, opium war, shabu war, mga ganun, narinig ko rin sa mga Amerikano, especially mga Republican Party. I talked to a couple of guys in Heritage Foundation and all, kasi I was asking about Trump and all. And lumabas itong fentanyl issue nito. Sa tingin mo, can we have a cooperation with drug enforcement agents in US from a very national securitized point of view? Kasi if we're seeing this as a sabotage activity, di ba? Shouldn't we work closer with our key allies on this issue?
Yeah, we should be exchanging information because they're having a hard time because the fentanyl is sent to Mexico and just brought over the border, transported to the U.S. over the border, and the U.S. authorities have a lot of experience, but they can hardly cope with this smuggling of fentanyl into the U.S. because there's really a lot of money involved.
It's so easy
But,
to manufacture, very cheap to manufacture fentanyl. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really very bad. The the side effect of fentanyl is worse than opium.
Yeah, I mean, some of the areas like San Diego, I have relatives and all, sobrang badly affected daw. Every day daw may pumapasok from across the border, no, at from Tijuana and all of those places. So I understand bakit siguro nanalo itong si Trump. Did you expect Trump winning, Justice Carpio, so easily in terms of electoral college and also
No,
sweeping
I
the House
didn't
and
expect
Senate?
him to
Yeah.
win
Mm.
that easily. I thought it was a cliffhanger.
Well, popular vote was close. 50.4% for Trump, 48% for Kamala, but so 2%, less than 2%. But
Mm.
you're right, electoral college, all battleground states, everything flip for Trump. So what is your sense with the Trump administration? Because on one hand, Trump is also a populist like Duterte. Alam mo, at the same time, alam ko marami nagagalit sa akin kasi pro Lenny at pro Trump din sila kasi gusto nila si Trump for Christian values, Catholic values, anti-abortion. Okay, whatever. But my point is he's also a populist. Let's just be clear about that. Nevertheless, he's a China hawk. So base dun sa mga new appointments, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, the names that are popping up, well, none of them have deep experience in foreign or defense policy, although I would say Marco Rubio, in fairness, as a senator, was on top of a lot of important issues relevant to Philippines and China. But what do you feel about it? A former Fox News military veteran being Pentagon chief and a former senator, Florida, essentially Florida men running the show. Congressman Walz also running the show. What do you feel about this? Do you think it's good for us na maraming China hawks potentially coming in?
Well, that's good. Rubio has been very strong against China, uh, and on the South China Sea, he has been supportive of preventing China from expanding. And I think everybody below the president will be strongly against China and the Chinese policy on the South China Sea. The only question is the president. I mean, uh, is he that deeply convinced on the principles involved? Or is he transactional about these things? That's really the big problem.
Beautiful, beautiful. Basta matuwa lang siya sa manangyari. Ibahin niya yung policy. Biglang kausap niya si Xi Jinping. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's cut a deal. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because President Xi Jinping, remember, offered the U.S. to divide the world. He said, "We'll take the South China Sea beyond the first island chain that's yours. The world is too big for both of us. Why do we have to quarrel and spend money uselessly?" I mean, Trump is very transactional, and he could say, "Yeah, that's correct. Uh, we don't want to be spending for these people who don't want even to spend on their defense."
I hope he'll be busy enough with tweeting and fighting people domestically so he can allow the professionals to do the job, right? Because I won't be surprised he's gonna tweet against Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, everyone that went after him is gonna call judges in Manhattan who convicted him. So let's just hope he'll keep busy on his Twitter feed and all of that with Elon Musk and all. But it's risky, yeah. I mean, either way. But nevertheless, Justice, do you think that under Trump, baka ma-pressure din ang Pilipinas to be more aggressively involved in the Taiwan issue, host more EDCA sites, more American weapon systems, medyo ipitin tayo ng konti? Isn't that the concern? Because that's what I hear from a lot of my American counterparts na the Trump administration was much more pressuring. Yun lang, nagkataon lang digong yung presidente noon. But this time, na it's BBM, baka they feel they can push the Philippines more, no, to, well, essentially toe their line on China. Do you think there's enough convergence with US to be okay with that scenario? What should we do?
Well, of course, personally, I have not really seen Trump being very involved in the defense of Taiwan. It's his people who are very strongly in favor of defending and assisting Taiwan, but Trump himself, not so much. So there will be a battle there, but let us assume that the U.S. want more EDCA sites. But these EDCA sites are just warehouses where they will leave their HIMARS, their Typhoons with us. Their people will not be around. In effect, they are leaving this equipment, these
Leasing to
missiles
us.
with us in case China invades. And China will see that we have these weapons. This serves as deterrent already. So I'm even in favor of that because these are not American troops' boots on the ground. These are just their weapons. And I will be happy to take their weapons.
So you see there's still a way to leverage this China hawk, medyo crazy, medyo chaotic Trump administration that they may end up. I mean, in short, ang sinasabi mo, Justice, here is we can leverage yung ating position, right? We're in the middle of Taiwan, in the Pacific, mahalaga na tayo sa West Philippine Sea. We can leverage that to get the maximum, best weapon systems, everything, the transfers, because this is what a lot of Republicans are saying, right?
Yeah.
That we have to help the Philippines. It's a frontline state. They're important. They're doing so. Rubio wrote something in favor of
Yeah.
that last year.
For example, there are 9 EDCA sites. So we'll ask them, how can you be asking for more EDCA sites when you have not filled up the warehouses of these EDCA sites, existing 9? So put your HIMARS here, your Typhoons here, and other weapons here. So the Chinese will look at us and say, oh, the Filipinos have HIMARS, they have Typhoons. So that's deterrence already.
It's because it could target also their military systems in both West Philippine Sea and also southern China.
Yeah, it will reach southern China. That's why they're really worried about the Typhoons, because that gives us the capability to strike them back in their homeland.
And puts us in a very important position. Oh, Justice,
this is all about deterrence. I'm not saying
absolutely,
that
yeah.
we go. This is just deterrence. In other words, they know that we can give them a bloody nose.
I mean, why should we use them if there's no reason to use them, right? So, hindi
Yeah.
ko na-gets yung sinasabi ng mga makapili. Ay, sorry, yung mga ibang experts na ano to, provocative daw tayo, troublemaker daw tayo. This is classic gaslighting. This is classic victim blaming. We're just doing the minimum here to enhance our position. On this point, Justice, aren't you worried na maging more militaristic ang approach under Trump 2.0 at the expense of what you are pushing for, which is more legal warfare, more rules-based order? Because this is Trump. Trump is not a rules-based order guy. I mean, let's be honest about it. Neither in his life, nor his political career, nor in his philosophy of international affairs, if any. Wouldn't be medyo difficult for us to push for a more legal warfare approach when we are allied to a country that now will be under a man who's known as defiant of rule of law at home and rules-based order abroad, potentially, or at least that's the perception.
Well, Trump is saying that he's not going to provide military and economic assistance anymore to Ukraine. So what's going to happen is Ukraine will have to depend on the EU countries and UK, and at the same time rely more on the rule of law. And that is also what we should be doing, because we really don't know what's in the mind of Trump. I mean, he could just tell Xi Jinping, yeah, let's make a deal. You take the South China Sea, the dividing line is first island chain, and we don't have to spend money defending the South China Sea, because those countries there don't even spend for their own defense. And that could happen. The U.S. has been an isolationist country twice in its history, and they can return to being isolationist. And Trump could be the one, because he's thinking of inward focus. He's going to raise the tariff well up to 200% against China.
I agree on Europe and the Middle East. That's a sentiment, but isn't there enough bipartisan and also popular anger at China? Because China is seen by large plurality of Americans as the #1 threat to the U.S. Isn't that enough pressure on them to stand their ground here with us?
Yes, that's why I'm saying below Trump, all the people, all the military commanders, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Congress, everybody in the State Department, they're united in seeing the China threat, not only mainland China, but the threat of China in the South China Sea. But the guy who makes the decision is Trump, and he could be, he's an outlier.
Yeah, he's a
So
commander in
we
chief.
really
Yeah,
don't know. So we really have to prepare.
to be
So
self-reliant.
our own strategy should be: what if Trump accepts the offer of his presidency to divide the Pacific? So we will lose uh, the West Philippine Sea to China in that case. Because if today the US will withdraw from the South China Sea, tomorrow the 9-10 line becomes the boundary of China. So we have to prepare for that day. I thought that this would happen maybe 10, 20 years from now, but it looks like it could happen anytime now. So we have to prepare and accelerate our modernization, strengthen our Navy and Air Force.
And accordingly, we should probably also work with some of our neighbors who are also worried. Korea, Japan, Australia, right? And Taiwan, not to mention, right? Everyone is gonna get hurt. I'm big time if they caught that, and essentially a Chinese Monroe Doctrine, right? Sa'yo na itong first island chain, di ba? Good luck na sa inyo. Huwag na tayo mag-away. Buffer na natin tong second island chain, di ba? I mean, again, this is a worst case scenario. But do you think that's the natural way? We should work with Japan, with Korea, with Australia, because kawawa rin yung mga bansa na yan if mapabayaan sila ng America on their own.
Yeah, we have to work with them, but our first line of defense is really to strengthen our own internal, our Navy and Air Force by acquiring more of these BrahMos type missiles
At
or
ang
HIMAR
mabilis. Kasi kung
missiles.
submarine yan at aircraft, matagal yan eh. At saka mahal.
At saka yung submarine napakamahal. At
Oh,
least yung BrahMos, you can have several batteries spread in Palawan and in
right,
Luzon.
right.
For one submarine, you can have a lot of those BrahMos missiles, missile batteries, no, and they are mobile. So we there's the way I look at it, there's urgency really to strengthen our air and naval capability, because we don't know what will happen. This for me, it's a big question mark. While we have the people under Trump and everybody down the line are with us on the South China Sea. Trump himself, really do not know what's in his mind. He could change his mind anytime.
We just don't trust him. Let's just put it that way. We just don't trust the guy. Great guy,
Well,
wonderful
if you
guy.
have a guy who says, uh, I will end the war in one day in Ukraine. I mean, we all know that will not happen. So you really don't know what's in his mind. He can end the war by telling Ukraine, you give up. We will be supporting Russia, so just give up now. That's how he can end the war in one day, because Ukraine will never give up. But if US said we are now allied with Russia, teklop yung ano,
Oh, and then Elon Musk, his
Ukraine will
friend
fold
says,
up.
I want...
The war will end in one day.
Exactly. And Elon Musk was on the call when Zelensky and Trump just had. I mean, Elon Musk could just say, sorry, SpaceX, we won't give you any access anymore to internet and all. Patay ang communication systems na bahala kayo dyan.
Well,
They can do that.
their drones will not work without without Starlink. Their
Yeah,
drones
Starlink.
will be blind.
Exactly. So that's that. So in short, just as obviously a responsible national security strategy is prepare for the worst while hoping for the best, right? So
Yes,
we're
correct.
happy that they're China hawks, whatever, that could be helpful, but there's the Trump element, which is completely indeterminate, if I can put it in from a
Yeah,
physics quantum mechanics point of view. So you prepare for the worst, and the worst is complete abandonment by the US and cutting off a deal in the coming.
yes. And this has to do with the AFP modernization, because the under the 2024 General Appropriations Act, they did not fund, Congress did not fund the AFP modernization. They transferred the fund uh, to the DPWH for the pork barrel, and they're raiding now PhilHealth, PDIC, and other government agencies. So I think uh, let's prioritize. Do we want to put there our budget, our funds for pork barrel or for AFP modernization, considering this threat now?
Yeah, this is serious. I mean, di ba nakaltasan pa yung defense budget natin? Bato posted something about it. Did you see that, Justice? There was something about the defense procurement budget na marami nagalit na sabi nila, ano ba nangyari dito? Kulang na nga tayo ng defense spending tapos kinakaltasan pa yata ni Bato or some of these people.
Yeah, actually, they defunded the AFP modernization by transferring the fund to the DPWH for pork barrel, and so they put the AFP modernization in the unprogrammed appropriations. It means
Yan
unfunded.
tayo, yan tayo. Shucks.
Now they are now getting the money from PhilHealth, from the poorest of the poor.
When you say they, Justice, who are you?
I mean, the people who passed the law, the General Appropriations Act. That's Congress.
That's Congress. Yeah, that's Congress. Oh my goodness, these people. Hindi ba klaro sa kanila na kailangan talaga natin mag-double down? Now, obviously, Justice, it looks like we may have a new Duterte, not in Manila, but in Jakarta. Our good friend Prabowo just cut a deal to have a joint development agreement with China without consulting any of his
The, the,
international. All my friends in Indonesia are like up in arms and saying, I said, welcome to Manila 2017, 2016.
yeah, I understand that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia was outside of the loop. They were not consulted.
So Duterte.
And they came out now with a statement. They practically reversed what Probowo agreed to. So they're trying to they're trying to have some damage control. So I think at the end of the day they will reverse themselves, because that means at bottom that they are recognizing the 10-dash line of China.
Yun nga eh. I just don't think Prabowo understood what was the implication. In fact, many also paid attention to Prabowo releasing the video of his talk with Trump, and then there was a China daily newspaper on his table. So parang, what are you trying to say? So you can see this guy is more of a vlogger, influencer type, rather than a nuanced statesman. He's more of a showman, no? Delikado. Medyo digong ang vibes niya sa akin so far. I was hoping it'd be more like BBM, at least in a sense that, yes, problematic, questionable, but at least my sense of international affairs. So good luck sa Indonesia. I
So
hope you learn
I'm
from
happy that like here in Manila, there are people who are reacting to this unilateral decision of Prabowo, no?
I mean, the fact na he picked, kasi si Prabowo, nilagay rin niya yung mga alalay niya dyan sa, mga top position eh. He didn't put many competent guys inside the government. Some of my friends who I hope will be the farm minister or something, medyo nagdalawang isip yata eh. At saka, so that was a big amateur hour mistake. Now, speaking of BBM, last week, Justice, we signed itong bagong batas to really clearly demarcate our baselines law based on not only on clause per se, pero itong arbitration case natin. I know for a while na hold back ito. I'm not gonna name names sa Senate, but there were some people creating troubles kasi Saba issues sinasaksak. I think Robin Hood was at least one person who was trying to say bakit hindi sinasama yung Saba. Ano ba nangyari? Justice, what is the final product? Is this satisfactory?
Yeah, the final product is good. It was held because the pro-China people in the government tried to sabotage it because there are four important things in the Maritime Bills Act. One, it made into law the arbitral award. It included it. So
Embedded
any
into our
president cannot
constitutional
change
fabric.
that policy unless the law is repealed. And I don't think Congress will repeal that law. So it made into law the arbitral award. Second, there is a provision there on defining the West Philippine Sea, because the admissive order of President Pinoy was lacking. The definition of West Philippine Sea did not include our extended continental shelf. Now, in the new law, the West Philippine Sea refers to all our maritime zones, which includes now the extended continental shelf. So that corrected the deficiency. Third, there is a reciprocity clause that if China does not honor our requirements for innocent passage, because under innocent passage, you must, like for example, if we
Innocent passage to what
exercise
then?
innocent passage in China, in the territorial sea of China, China requires us to give prior notice that we are passing. But that's not an UNCLOS requirement. That's against the UNCLOS rules. So if China adopts that policy against us, we will also tell China, you have to give us also prior notice. In other words, we will accord the UNCLOS rights to countries that also afford us UNCLOS rights. It will be reciprocal. So China will now face a problem because if they don't accord our ships the same rights as we accord their ships, then they will have to notify us. So there is reciprocity, which is really what we should, all countries should be doing. So I'm very happy that it's in our bill. If all countries adopt reciprocity, China will be isolated, and China cannot even go to the Mediterranean Sea, to the Baltic Sea, without complying with UNCLOS.
Did we get an
So
inspiration on that from anyone? And obviously, we're talking about Hainan, right? We're not talking about their fake islands in the West Philippine
no,
Sea.
no, yeah, no, we're not.
Yeah, we're talking about Hainan and their actual territory, not the
Yeah,
Mambo
mm,
Islands they
yeah.
built here. Did we
So
get it
that's
from another country, this reciprocity clause? Is there any other country that has something similar, Justice?
there's
Around the
none.
world?
It's the first time.
Oh,
I
wow. This is
recommended
another
that
phase. Oh, wow.
I
Congrats.
recommended that it be inserted, and I'm happy that
Oh, wow.
they adopted it, because that's the one way to force China to abide with the UNCLOS. Because
Uh,
what China is doing, everybody abides with the UNCLOS, but China is not abiding with the UNCLOS. It's taking a free ride. So there should be reciprocity. And
And,
I hope other countries will follow this.
well,
And the
this
fourth
reciprocity.
is,
Yeah, please, fourth. Yeah.
we have clarified the internal waters, that the waters seaward of our baselines are archipelagic waters, and there's still internal waters like Manila Bay are internal waters. So we have clarified we've more or less harmonized our constitution with the interpretation with the UNCLOS.
Thank you for the justice. So the APAT is, first of all, we embedded it into our constitutional order, speaking of the 2016 arbitral ruling. Number two, sinama din natin yung continental shelf, yung mga ibang
Yes.
maritime zones natin. Pangatlo, this is the unprecedented one, the reciprocity clause. Although the issue of reciprocity came up every time I was in Washington, D.C. on other issues rin, di ba? Yung
Yeah.
strategic investments, telecommunications,
Yes.
etc. But this
The
is right at
Americans
the end of the
finally
path.
realized that
Right.
they were opening their economy to China, but China was not opening their economy to the Americans. So
Exactly.
they said everything now will be subject to reciprocity. And that's also the position of EU.
Right.
On economic matters, trade matters, it will have to be reciprocal. All privileges, incentives will have to be reciprocal. So that's where I got this idea that we also, when it comes to uh, law of the sea, there should be reciprocity.
So this could be a kind of a also inspiration for parallel legislations, right, on reciprocities, including strategic investments, etc. Diba? Now, if we allow China
Yes.
to invest in this sector, they should also allow us to
Yeah,
invest. Otherwise,
we've
there's
included this already in our amended Public Service Act. There's a
Public Service
reciprocity
Act.
clause there.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also recommended
Oo nga pala,
that
no?
be
Yeah, yeah.
included.
Public
That
Service Act.
because we
Opo,
opened up our telecoms
correct.
to China, to all the rest, but
China
it
Telecom,
will
yeah.
have to be reciprocal, and China will never agree, because for
Right.
them telecoms is a is a strategic industry for security reasons, national security reasons. They will never open it up.
Critical infrastructure. May question tayo dito on Escoda Shoal. What is the latest that we know, Justice, on the status of Escoda Shoal in terms of excess? Kasi pinabalik na yung mga bata natin yung few months ago, di ba? We needed to, obviously we don't have enough capital ships, flagships to sustain enough presence. Anong basa mo dyan? Yeah, what is the situation in Escoda right now?
Well, we have not returned to Escoda Shoal, Sabina Shoal. I don't know the plans of the Coast Guard or the Navy, but we have to one day go back there. Otherwise, China will be entrenched there.
Nakat ka ng sandali, Justice. Sorry, you were saying on the Escoda Shoal thing?
Yeah, well, we
China
have
will be
not gone back
entrenched
to
there.
Escoda Shoal. We have not gone back to Escoda Shoal, but we have to go back there. Otherwise, China will be entrenched there.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, Justice. I know you must be exhausted. It was a long day for all of us. Habol din ako dyan, with other work. Thank you again, Justice. Is there something in particular that you want to emphasize before we close this fantastic conversation covering so many important stuff? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Well, I think we have to uh, think deeply what will happen to the South China Sea under the Trump administration because of those question marks. No? But at least from cabinet level down to everybody else, military, Congress, Senate, House of Representatives, State Department, they are on the same page.
Congress bipartisan din to. So at least
Yeah,
all the foundations are there. The only wild card is Donald
the
Trump.
president.
As always, welcome to season 2 of the Trump Show. The Trump Show. My goodness, excellent times, interesting times. Thank you, Justice Carpio, for another fantastic conversation. Hope to catch up with you soon again in the coming days and weeks, especially kung may updates tayo about ICC. You're quite optimistic, right? Again, I don't want us to hazard any speculation, but you think the direction of the wind is pwede mapin down talaga mga Dutertes, no?
Well, because of Duterte himself, because you can catch a fish with through his mouth, and that's exactly what's happening now.
Well, it was the same mouth that declared war early this year, right? January this year, he declared essentially war on Marcos, and he's ending the year with the same mouth that is putting him in even more trouble. Beautiful, beautiful. I have no trouble with that. That was great, great guy, amazing guy. Salamat, Justice, and talk to you soon.
Okay.
Salamat po.